Welcome to the New World Order Showcase Podcast. Your host, Jill Hart, the Coach's Alchemist. Couldn't be more excited to have you join us today. On this podcast, we celebrate the champions of change, the up-and-coming life, health and transformational coaches who are fearlessly stepping forward to make a difference in the world. Get ready for inspiring stories, practical tips, and powerful moments that will motivate you to make a positive change in your life and those around you. We're happy to have you join us on this incredible journey as we dive into the world of life, health, and transformational coaches who are lighting up the path towards a better tomorrow.
Hi, and welcome to the New World Order Showcase podcast. We have with us today Jackie Cote. She is a special guest and a kindred spirit, I can tell already. She's the freedom mentor, and she's dedicated to empowering people to live a life of freedom and adventure. She is a full-time RV'er, and she's coming to us from her garage.
Right,
We were
right.
just talking about that and the fact that they were it's really, she's in a toy hauler, and the toy hauler part, they tried to put a car in there. So why don't you tell that part of the story, and then we'll talk about
Yeah. This all happened in COVID when we were like we couldn't travel. We're like, we gotta find another way to travel. And we ended up researching and getting an RV, but we wanted the one that had the porches. So a toy hauler is a fifth wheel that attaches to a truck and it has a porch on the back. But this one has a side porch as well. And the side porch is where is my office, like in the good weather, whenever we're in a nice weather. But the back is an actual garage and they call it a toy hauler to put toys, like 4x4s and motorcycles. But we wanted to fit a car into it. But we needed a four-door car so that my husband could do Uber and Lyft driving on the travels and make money, because mine's a virtual business. But you put that man behind a computer, it's not a pretty sight. So we got him, like, he does the Uber and lifting. We tried to fit a mini, four-door mini, and it was like 2 inches. We were in like the car shop measuring the mini, and like we're researching, Googling, and the guy's like, "What are you guys doing?" We're like, "We're trying to fit this in the back of an RV." He's like, "How do you do that?" But it didn't work. But thank God it didn't work, because I do believe everything happens for exactly the reasons it's supposed to happen. And now we drive separate. I drive a four-door Ford. He drives the truck and the rig, and we don't enjoy the same things while driving. He loves his classic rock and roll for 8 hours straight and never changes the channel. Me, I'm like, podcast, call a friend, listen to a book. I'm like ADD child of entertainment. And so we are now married. We weren't married when we started the journey. We are now married, I think, because we drive separate vehicles.
I totally hear you with that. I drove with my husband. We were truck drivers, so we drove long haul across the country, and he drove nights and I drove days. But if we had to like spend time together, like sitting together while we're traveling, it is really hard because yeah, I like listening to podcasts and educational stuff and books, and sometimes I'll listen to music, but I like, different kinds of music than he does. He's a classic rock guy too. And it's just like,
Absolutely.
it's like my head hurts.
Even better, the hair bands. He found a
Yeah.
satellite music hairband station. And I'm like, honey, like we do 30-minute, 45-minute drives down to the canyon, because we're in the middle of nowhere, Colorado now. And
Mhm.
we'll do the drive, and he's got his hairband, and he's like, every song sounds alike, honey. Like, really? So I do get my country station every now and then, or my class, or my pop, or my, everyday music, or my or 80s music. I do get that every now and then. We alternate, we do compromise, but for 8 hours straight, we could not do that. So we like
Yeah,
each other because we drive separate.
yeah, I think people need space too. And when you're living in a tiny environment like all the time, if you don't have your own interests and time away from each other, even if it's driving, I think that it it's really hard to make
Yeah.
that kind of a relationship work long term. especially if you're planning on living this lifestyle a long time.
Yeah, I've met couples who both work from online businesses, and they'll literally be like side by side on computers in their like Airstream, which is a lot smaller than ours. Ours is 44 feet long. And me, I'm like, honey, if I'm working at home, you're going out and doing something, like whether you're working or you're going doing the running the errands, but like at the same time, we just want to treat it like an everyday life. Like you're going to work, I'm going to work. And we do take a ton of time together. Like we get a lot, like we get that because we've created that lifestyle so that we could take time whenever we choose to. But outside of that, we need that. You got your life, I got my life, and we got our life together.
Yeah, we have to do that. I was telling you we have a kind of a smaller home, and my husband's retired, but he has things that he does, and I have an office at the door, and you can't spend your whole life 24/7 living each other's lives together. It
No. And that's, I would say, when people ask me, whenever people ask, they go, what's the thing that, keeps you guys happy? And that's it. That's exactly what you touched on, is like, you got to have your separate lives and your lives together, your separate interests, time together, time separate, and be intentional on both ends. Be intentional in what you design for yourself. Be intentional. He's very simple. He doesn't have to go out, be with friends. He's not really that, like, he's a very simple man, but I need that. I desire that. And
Mhm.
so I go and travel and fly places from the RV and do my own traveling outside of the RV. And, and he will maybe go fishing, or maybe he went skiing today. Like it's funny. I force him. I'm like, go skiing, go do stuff, because I want him to, live a life that he truly enjoys too. And then we get together and we're intentional about our time together too. So,
Yeah, and you have different things to talk about when you're not doing stuff like that, then you end up it's how couples end up watching television for the rest of their life because
right,
they stop doing stuff. They stop having adventures by themselves and together, and they don't have things to talk about.
mm-hmm. I can't tell you that we haven't been there. We have been there in those moments where you're like, and I like to conversate. That's why I do things with wonderful people like you on podcasts. Like I like to have conversations. And there's time where I'm like silently looking at him going, okay, what are we gonna talk about next? And he's fine with not. It's I call him the calm to my crazy. I was the uh super active, social, like talkative, like let's get everyone together. He taught me how to, it's interesting. He taught me how to be more. We talk about being and doing,
Mhm.
and he taught me the being more of just like, just enjoy the moment. And the first time he told me to relax, I wanted to like kill him. But I was like, don't tell me to relax. And I realized, no, he's right. And then I got him more in the active, like social side of things, and you know, not like people. It's so interesting. I think we attract the opposite a lot of times in relationships.
For sure. I know my husband's that same way. He's like, I'm more of the I go out and meet people and do stuff, and he wasn't like that for a long time. I used to think he was kind of socially awkward, but since he's retired and he loves the gym. So he can walk to the gym from our house. So he goes to the gym every day, and he goes to the hot tubs by himself because he realized that he doesn't have to have mommy come along. He can do things by himself. He learned to go grocery shopping. He was a truck driver for a million years. I mean, so again, he's got an excuse. He would only be home for like 3 or 4 days a month for a lot of our marriage. Um, and so I did everything, all the bills, all the shopping. When he came home, it was just like King Jeff has come home. Let's, all bow down and do everything for him. But when you're home all the time, that's just not happening. You got to
Right.
make your side of the bed. I'm sorry, dude.
I love it. I love it. I did not. They would get along, by the way, because mine loves to drive. Like he loves to drive. He drives buses right now in Colorado. It's a
Mhm.
9-month contract. This is the first time we've been stationary for a while. And he'll drive Uber and Lyft. He just loves being that, like being a driver. I think doing things in that capacity. So I think they'd probably have a very good conversation.
Probably. My husband loved truck driving. I love
Hmm.
truck driving. I got him into it because I always wanted to drive a big rig. In fact, I
Oh,
got
that's so awesome.
my first real driver's license that I actually passed like all the tests and everything for was driving an 18-wheeler when I got my
Uh,
CDL. Before
yeah.
that, I failed a test and then we moved, so I didn't have to take the driving test, and then we moved again and I had to take the driving test and I failed that. And my boyfriend at the time had talked them into passing me. They said I was just really nervous, which I was. It was like,
I
so
think that's
that
super
was,
cool.
yeah, it was really fun. So you are a freedom mentor. You teach people how to live a lifestyle. What? How?
Yeah, yeah,
What
it's
do you
funny
do?
being that I live in an RV, and I get the question of like, does it have to be like sell everything and move in an RV? I'm like, no, it's one version of a freedom lifestyle.
Yeah.
And we will settle down one day, and we're actually looking to possibly purchase an RV park and build that out and then build our home on there and all that stuff. It's one of our vision things.
Mhm.
Um, but when it comes to the freedom life, it's really about I've met a lot of women, and women's my main market, but I do work with men as well, and that have worked like 20, 30 years or doing something for the same thing for this long and have that title of like this job, this wife, this mother, and then go, huh, I don't feel fulfilled. They're unhappy. Maybe they've created success and money, but they're not enjoying the life that they're living. And I'm really all about helping you design the life that you really want to live through that awakening, that vision, and really letting yourself dream for you, and fitting the success, the money, all the other titles into the life that you desire. I think we're taught opposite. We're growing up, it's like get a good job, get salary, get benefits. I always fought that. I was the one kid out of eight of us that didn't like get the good job. I mean, I got a restaurant career, of 30 years of management. So it was a good job, but it wasn't your standard typical. I got my degree. I didn't use it. My brothers all did. They all did their thing, and they all stayed in Jersey. And I left like immediately and traveled the country, and I did that before all of this RV stuff. So I've always had this freedom theme in the way I've lived my life. I chose careers that would get me to travel around for free. Like, so I did restaurant openings for Starbucks and for Potbelly Sandwich Company and Cava Mediterranean Restaurant. And so I did management leadership, which is a gift of mine, is to be able to see what people can't see and hold it up for them and help them get to that next level. And then and the other side of it is being able to see how to create more freedom in your life, whether it's time freedom, money freedom, location freedom. And it's funny when I say that to people, like the restaurant industry has no freedom. Like you work 24/7 nights, weekends. And I was like, yeah, you're right. And I did. And I was the manager who said, I know my contract says 55 hours a week, but we got it done in 45. So we're going to leave now. We're the ones who like, I would be able to see how we could get it done more efficiently and get a life, and keep a life for my managers that worked for me and the people that I promoted. So yeah, that's a passion of mine now. And a lot of people that come to me really want to move from that 20, 30 year, I've been doing what I should be doing, and shift into I really want to do what I'm meant to be doing. And a lot of times that is shifting into entrepreneurship. Sometimes it's just shifting into a different career completely, but still in the career world, but where you get freedom of complete remote. You got the higher money pay, your location, you got the choice to go where you want to go. And I've had a couple of people stay in careers, but create more freedom within the career. And then most people, they develop those side things that put them into a freedom life so they can exit the career world into entrepreneurship. But I will tell you, and you've probably met a lot of people doing what you do, there are a lot of people go into business and then they get tethered to it, and then they're in the same treadmill of life and don't have a life. And I've met them and excuse me, help them create a life. And I always say, what do you got to release and let go of? And stop. What are the shoulds that you feel like you're doing right now that you need to let go so you can have the life that you desire? So, and that's all in the empowerment part of my work. So I call about awakening, empowering, and owning who you are so that you can have the life you desire.
I like that. I like that a lot. And you're right. it's so easy to get trapped back into the work mentality. And as an entrepreneur, it's worse because you're constantly like, oh, I should be doing this and I should be doing that and I need to be doing this other thing, and oh, I can't possibly do something fun for myself, or I can't spend money on something that I'm just going to enjoy for the sake of enjoying it, rather than, oh, I need to plow that back into my business. And having good boundaries for yourself. I mean, we talk about boundaries with other people, but you need to have your boundaries with, that brain up there that wants you to do all
Yes.
these
Oh my
things. It's
gosh.
like, no, no, this is our time. We're not doing that.
Oh my gosh. That is, you hit it on the nose. And it all comes down to, when I talk about freedom, like there's the tangibles of like time, money, location, and those kind of things. But the freedom is the true freedom is when you really enjoy one being with yourself. Because I did not until I was 47. Let me just put that there. But like really love who you are, who you're being, the time, like spending time with you and being with you, and then honoring that. So when you talk about those boundaries of like self, empowering like the yeses to what you desire, not what everybody else says you should, the no's to the things that no longer don't align with you. And you're like, and when they don't, but we just ignore that feeling, right? Like,
Right.
when they got the resistance to it, and you're like, I should say no, but I should. Ooh, say no. And say yes to
And
self,
don't
and say no to the
apologize
things
for
that
it.
don't serve you. Yes. And that's so funny you say that, because I say, awaken, empower, and own who you are unapologetically in the world. Because we're, most of the times when we don't, you're spot on. Most of the times when we aren't like doing something that's not, it's because we didn't give ourselves permission.
Mhm.
Give yourself permission.
Yeah. And you can tell people no, and you don't have to explain why you're saying no, and you don't have to apologize for saying no. You can just own it. No, not doing
Yeah.
that.
Complete sentence.
Yeah.
No is a complete
Yeah.
sentence.
It's a complete sentence.
I love that.
And you can say yes to things that you really want to do, that you desire in your life. And it may take some maneuvering in order for you to accomplish it, but really, you can do anything you want to do. There are
Mm-hmm.
no limits except between your ears. Uh, Put it out there, own it.
You're
And
speaking my language.
as things come up that you see are like uh, giving you indications that more is coming, you just need to like recognize it and be happy for it, and encourage more to come, and more will
Mm-hmm.
show up. And before you know it, that's why people, they put up vision boards and they don't look at them for a long time, and they go back and look at them and they're like, oh, got that, got that, got that, got that. That's part of my life. That's part of my life. That's part of my life. It's because you spent some time thinking about it and really getting into the feeling of it while you were putting the board together. And even if you never looked at it again,
Mm-hmm.
stuff just kind of comes along because your brain works on it.
Yes, 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 yes. And that's why the first step in like my process, in the process of any change, is really the awareness of the vision and the awareness of your desires. And there's so many times I've come into a relationship with somebody where it's hard to vision, like because of the world that you've lived, the life that you've lived. I had this one woman who had a very sick child for a while, and so she was very much in the moment, in the day, and she's
Mhm.
like, I can't think of tomorrow because she might not be here, and that just doesn't. So she had to very much be in the moment to. And so when I got to her, it was scary. Like it was the unknown to vision for more than what is just right now and today. So it's understandable because our brain wants to keep us safe, keep us, love, safety, and belonging, the foundational of everything that, what we do. And most of the time when we're like, why don't I want to do this wonderful thing? It's because it's unknown to you and it's not safe to your brain. But when you do that vision board, to your point, when you do the vision and you step into the things, like you let yourself, like we said earlier, give permission to yourself to dream and to vision and to play. Oh my gosh, play is so important and having fun is so important. But when you let yourself do that, your brain's like, all right, you know, Jill believes this. So I'm going to go to work for her. And this is part of her picture. I related to this when we were kids, we were fearless, right? We had this like, I'm a dancer, I'm a choreographer, I'm a this, I'm a chef, I'm a doctor, I could do all the things. Like
Mhm.
and we were fearless and we didn't care what people thought. I mean, I was not a dancer, but I thought I was. And we do like I'm gonna age myself, but Abracadabra by Steve Miller Band, and we'd create this like amazing dance and we do it for our family with no shame.
Right.
And then life happens, right? And all of a sudden, oh, I'm not a good dancer because we don't want to be judged and we want to belong and we don't look stupid. And so suddenly it's not safe to dance because someone made fun of somebody or you made of you, whatever. And so when we can get back to that childlike way of being when we were so uh perfect and we still are, but we don't believe that. And and really get into that place where, and you said it earlier, you said the word feel. You
Mhm.
said when we can feel what it is that we truly desire. I do this activity once a month for free, the fourth Thursday of every month, and it's called Speak into Your Future Desires from a Done Place. So we go around and we talk about the desires, and then we take about 30 to 45 minutes and we speak into each other's dreams from a done place. We're like, oh my gosh, remember when you were saying that you wanted last year in 2024, you wanted to be the number one podcast for blah, blah, blah topic, an area. Well, you have blown that away. And now you're number one in 3 different areas and blah, 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 and international and this and that. And we speak into like, and you were talking on the stage over in Italy, and we had that retreat, we were together, and we're speaking into it, and then you're feeling it because everybody's faces are like, whoa, smiling and enjoying it. And then you leave there, and like you said, you might never speak about it again, but it starts to happen. It just
Yeah.
starts to show up because you've
Things
given possibility to the brain to be true.
things your brain starts to see, oh, if I do that, or if I take part in this, then it just moves you a little bit closer to it. And you may not even be conscious of the fact that it's moving you towards the thing that you just spoke into existence, except that it feels right. There's something about it that's just like, oh, it just allows you to catch your attention.
Yeah.
I don't, it's
No,
kind of magic.
no, it is. Well, and here's how I look at it this way. This is a way that because sometimes the woo woo or like the energy and the like all that stuff can
Mhm.
like really lose people when they haven't been in this world for long enough. Because I remember when I first started, I was like, the universe has my back. What do you mean? Like, wait,
Yeah,
hold on a second. Like, someone's got my back that I cannot see, touch, and that's faith in God and whatever you believe in. And so,
whatever you believe.
but the one thing that really kind of made it understandable to my brain to my science side of it, if you want to call it whatever. Have you ever like got so worried about something? Well, we have 3 places we can live. We've got the past that we cannot change, but we have true, like we've experienced it, so the brain knows it's true that we could have, this negative thing, this negative thing, this negative whatever. These things happen. I don't see anything as negative, but I'm just using it as an example. But then there's this other place that we can live in, the future worries. And I've watched myself and others get so like into the worry that it's true. I've watched people go into anxiety and land in the hospital over the anxiety of what it is that they think could happen. And our brain is that powerful with the imagination. It can go powerfully into. So one of my clients' daughters went to abroad and they had to like cut all phone service off. So she could not, very close to her kids, and she could not talk to her daughter, and she was in Africa. And so she went to the anxiety of like, I can't control, I don't know, and boom, boom, boom. And she ended up in the hospital over it. She got into, and she thought she was having like a heart attack. It was just all anxiety. And, but I was like, think about that. You felt the story was so true that your daughter was going to get sick, kidnapped, whatever it was that you were going down, that your body shut down. We can do the same for the third place to live, and that's in the visions and the desires. So if our brain can get so real in the imagination of what's could go wrong, it can also what could go right and what could you really desire. So let me ask, like, anyone listening, like, where do you really want to live? Do you want to live in the past you can't control, the future worries, past you can't change, the future worries you can't control, or the future desires that are just so much more fun to create and be in that imagination and let your brain know and your body know it's true. Back to the feeling, by the way, you can
Yeah,
feel that.
you feel the future and it
Mm-hmm.
becomes the present, and you can change the past. All you
Hmm.
have to do is change what you think about the things that happened. Truth is
Yes.
truth is relative. It's relative to whatever you want to remember it as when it comes to past
Yeah.
history.
Yep.
It's like just tell yourself a better lie, as Marissa Peer says.
Well, what meaning do you put to it? It's your choice.
It's your choice.
Yeah.
You can totally rewrite any relationship you had, any event that you experienced, and you could make it, maybe you're remembering it as this horrible thing, but if you can find even just one thing about it that was really amazing, that really did change the trajectory of your life, if it involves other people, it'll change your relationship with them and it'll change how they remember the situation too. So
Hmm.
it's like you can change the past and you can definitely create whatever future you want.
Yes. Ooh, love it. Love it. There's something that I learned in this journey of around positive intention that's similar to what you're talking about. It's like everything that's happened to us, it's happened for us, not to
Mhm.
us. And there's a positive intention that links back to love, safety, and belonging that, like, let's say a negative relationship between you and your parent of some sort.
Mhm.
Why did they treat me that way? Why did they da 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 da? Like, why did this happen? And it could be really negative, and I don't want to use any trigger stuff, but it could be very, very negative, seen as negative. And then I always like to ask my clients, like, okay, what would be the positive intention of why that person did that thing with you? And they're like, I don't know, because like, how could it be positive? Well, how did they learn how to love? How did they learn how to keep you safe? And how they learned how to belong in society guides their decisions on how they're going to treat you. So the person who says, I had a really strict father and it was always in trouble and this and that, well, that's how he learned how to keep people safe in his life, because that's how he was taught. So he's doing the best, he did the best he could based on how he learned. And so now you get to change that story. To your point, you get to change the way that you decide to keep yourself safe and how you decide to keep your kids safe. You don't have to follow the same stories and the same patterns. But there's always a positive intention. And when you can see it, then it goes, oh, you can almost release it and forgive it and all those. That's a whole nother topic, right? Forgiveness
Yeah.
is a whole nother topic.
Yeah, I was talking to a guy yesterday about forgiveness, and that, yeah, but
That's a whole
it
other
is
podcast.
so important when you're talking about being free. Forgiveness is a piece of freedom, and being able to really embrace a life of freedom. And when you have freedom in your life, it it's just it's a mental concept to me too, because it's really what you think about the situation that you're in allows
Mm,
you to be able to be free. You can
yes.
There are some people, like Nelson Mandela, I think, was one of them, who was in prison for many, many, many years, but the man was not, he was free. He was free to write his books, to share his thoughts, to develop his thoughts, and he had he had a huge impact. If he had never gone to jail, that impact would have never ever been made.
Mm,
Julian Assange is another person that's like that. He is suffering tremendously. And whatever you think about him or what he's done or hasn't done, he's another person that, had he never been um persecuted the way he is, he would not be making the impact that he's making. It's just like, if you're in these situations, yeah, it suck like hell. But because of the crucible that you're in, it's causing some other things to happen in the world around you and at large that, were you never there, it would never have happened.
that's powerful. Listen to that, people. It's powerful because I'll just give you like a personal experience recently that I just went through. And you just and to your point, you don't know the package that the change is going to come in, but you've got to understand that everything is happening for you for change. And so for example, back in November I got the call that, my mom went into the hospital and my dad has dementia, so my mother was his caretaker. And it's early onset, so like the daytime he was kind of normal and the nighttime he went into the things. And so when I found out that that happened, I went out to help take care of him for 2 months. So November and December of we're in 2024 now, but 2023, December, end of November, December, and January, I spent 2 months out there with my dad. It was strictly me and just me and him. The first 10 days, I will tell you, was hell. It was hard. It was emotional. It was a daughter seeing her father in a way of being that he had never been her entire 51 years. It was it was hard. And I learned more about myself in 8 weeks and healed more childhood wounds that you could imagine, my friend, in 8 weeks than I ever would have in any other way, capacity. I've had coaching for 4 years. I've broken in through a lot of stuff. I've done the healing in a lot of areas, but I had no idea what was going to come up from this container. And now I could one way look at it as like, this sucks. Or I can look at it as, oh my gosh, like look at the biggest one that came for me. It came for me the day I got him into a facility. We put him into a beautiful assisted living. We were so blessed. Literally the day that my mom agreed that we could research it, the next day we called, they said, we have a spot that just opened. It's yours. Boom. And it was like what normally takes months and months and months. I said to myself, we will get him somewhere in 8 weeks. And we did. And we got it in a day. But I put him there and I went back to the house and I was alone in their house after 2 months of complete alone time with my father. And I didn't realize how much in 51 years, because I'm a baby of 8. So there's not, and a mother who passed away when I was 5, and my stepmom came into my life later on, that I never got alone time with my dad in 50 years, 51 years. Never, never just me and him. And I got 2 months of it because of dementia.
The
And
gift.
he was telling me, Jill, he was like, you're beautiful, you're courageous, you're brave, you're like your mother. Like he was saying everything I've always yearned to hear. Because that wasn't our family. We didn't do the I love yous. We didn't do the hugs. We didn't do that stuff. I'm blessed to have a husband who does that. And he brought that into my life, and that was only 7 years ago. And so
Mm-hmm.
I sat there and I had this
Right.
like aha, and I just started crying. I was like, oh my gosh, I never realized I needed this and I needed it. And now I feel so much more in tune and in love with myself and my body and who I am and all sorts of stuff because of that time frame, which could have been seen as a very sucky time frame. And then
Ah,
it ended up being beautiful. Not
I'm
comfortable,
so happy for you,
beautiful.
Jackie. That is such an amazing story. And I'm like wiping my tears away because it's just like so, it touched my heart. But you're absolutely right. You could look at it like this sucks, or you could look at it like, wow, this was such a gift.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
And I'm not going to sit there, and the gifts show up in hard containers. Let me
yeah,
tell you, it was
yeah, they
hard.
do.
I was lots of tears. It was seeing a man who never got angry lose his cookies every night, yelling at me.
Mhm.
And it was hard and it was uncomfortable and it was beautiful. It was exactly what I needed.
It was so
So now I'm
amazing.
about to cry. Okay, great.
Ah. Yeah, I know other people who have big challenges in their life. You're talking about the woman who has a daughter that she can only think about today. That I've met people who've had kids that were challenged. I met a woman whose daughter passed when she was 18 or so. She was ill for a long time in her life, and her her life has gone on, but because of that, other things have opened up for her. And it's just like so many stories of really tragic things that have happened in somebody's life that really that's that's where the gift is. We
And it,
all we all have trauma in our lives. Well, I'll just want to add this one more thing. We all have
yeah.
trauma in our lives. No one gets through childhood without it. But it's that trauma that really is the crucible that causes us to be the people that we become.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Microphone drop on that one.
Yeah.
And it's how, like, and back to what you said earlier, it's how we process it and how we're willing to see the lessons and the beauty from the trauma that determines like where we go and what we like do and how we grow and what we experience. And we truly are the manifestors of our life. and it can go either way.
Yeah.
It could go either way, my friends.
Amazing. Amazing manifestors, and we manifest everything.
Everything. And people are like, I didn't mean,
Intentional.
yeah, we kind of
Yeah,
did.
you did. And the thing about that is that you don't generally manifest immediately. It's not like, the genie waves his wand and suddenly the thing that you were thinking about appears. It happens down the road. So you really got to watch your thoughts, because it's what you're thinking about that's going to cause stuff to show up for you in the future. The whole plant sowing and reaping thing, if you
Mhm.
take it back to that, you never sow and reap in the same season.
Mm-mm.
It's just the way the world works. You plant those seeds and you're not going to eat off of that for several months down the way. But you can be sure, if you planted the proper seed, that you're going to get the thing that you were looking for in,
Mhm.
whatever the time frame is. Well, the same goes for your thoughts. When you start cleaning up your thoughts, it may be a month or two, but things will happen. And the more you practice that, the better your life just gets overall.
Yeah, that is the pure lesson of trust and surrender, what you just explained. It's like and knowing that like it's not on your timeline. And so you've got to trust that what you're like someone just said the other day when I was working with a coach, she's like, what you're seeing in your 3D world today obviously came from what you thought and what you like previous, right?
Mhm.
And what's going on now. And so if we want a different future, we got to think a different way, different, just like what you're explaining. Um, but of course we all like, I want it yesterday. Like I thought about this and I want it right now, but that's not how it works. So just keep putting your orders in and your I used to I used to think I related to those old diners where they put the tickets up, like Alice's Diner, like
Yeah.
order up, put
Mhm.
your order into God and the universe and go click. Okay, that's what I desire, and then just lean like, you're gonna lean in and you're gonna do some stuff and you're gonna show up and but then you're gonna lean back and you're gonna trust, you're gonna surrender and understand that, all right, my order's in. When it happens isn't up to me. It could happen tomorrow, but it could happen 6 months from now. And those are those moments.
How?
Those are yeah. And the how, yes, the how will show up. The how will show up. I cannot say that enough. Can you trust that
I
the how will show up?
I manifested $54,000 in December, and I did it intentionally, like from new
Mm-hmm.
moon to new moon. In November on the new moon, I wrote my intention out. I was going to intend to $50,000 was going to show up in my life. My father-in-law, he was in great shape, for 85 and living with congestive heart failure. And I mean, he and my husband had gone out to dinner and they were doing all the stuff. And then the month went on and I knew how it was going to happen because, that's just how I am. But I kept thinking about it and what I wanted and imagining, how it would feel when I had the money. And um on the new moon in December, my father-in-law passed and left us $54,000.
Wow. Again, that goes back to the um the container of the lesson and the receiving of things we cannot predict.
Yep.
You're gonna be like, wow, like how did it show up in that container that way? You wouldn't have, there's no way.
There was no way I could have known. It was
Right.
just like
Yeah.
it it was sad, but it was also one of those, but okay.
So
I'm
then
a
there's
little
that.
surprised.
But then that brings me to the point. This is, then you'll like this. It brings you to the point of like, how specific should you be in your future vision requests and orders with the universe? Because if you're not like, you don't want to be too specific to hold back from what could come. So like when people say, certain level of money, I always end the or more after it,
Yeah.
kind of thing, to like give the freedom of what will be delivered. But then it's like any other way but death. And then boom, you would not get the 54,000, right? But then yeah, no, it's interesting. My dad's and I, like, I just didn't think I would gain everything that I gained from the container of dementia is not very looked on as very positive. So,
It's not. And it's really a hard thing for everybody. to
Mhm.
go through. It's frustrating for the person who's suffering from it, especially if they're not like totally gone. They have lucid moments and they know that, there's
Oh
times when
yeah.
they're not. I think that's really hard on them, but it's hard on their loved ones because, suddenly this person that you've known all your life doesn't know who you are. And
Hmm.
that's kind of like, it's like they're dead, but they're not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You just described, my dad remembers us at this point. He knows who we are once like we're in front of him. Sometimes we have to remind him on the phone who we are, and he goes, "Oh yeah, 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 my baby girl," and but then he gets frustrated that he's
Mhm.
not the man that he independent, has money, this and that. That's like all, gone or changed, the dynamic. Can't drive,
Mhm.
not a lot, like doesn't really can't handle money, can't handle like doesn't have this and that. And like he was a very, independent man. So it's understanding when they get into their rage because they just lost control of what even their bowel movements. I mean, not that's a great topic, but just even that one thing, it's like that's what we have control over in our life. Our bodily functions. Come on. And
Well, that
yeah.
is ultimately why my father-in-law died. He
Okay.
we really thought he was going to make it. He ended up getting COVID, and so we brought him home on hospice. But we were talking to the nurse about, he'll rebound. He always does. I mean, he's
Right.
just like he was so certain he was going to live to be 100. That's what he spoke into existence, but he moved his bowels and the nurse and I had to clean him, and we could just see in his eyes, it was like, oh hell no, I'm done. And he
I'm not
left
doing
that
this.
night. I'm not doing
Yeah.
this. He was a very private man, and that whole episode was just like, that's when he quit.
And that is where we're at with my stepmom, who's been in my life since I was 7. So she's in the hospital, same thing. And we're like, which way is she going to decide? We're kind of waiting for the which direction she's going to decide to one way or the other. And it is her choice. So we'll find out.
Yeah,
So,
it's sad on one end, but I don't think it's the end. So it's like,
neither do I. And I
it's
do
just a
to
different transition.
what you described that he went through, and at the end when he made that decision, like I don't want to live
Mhm.
this way. There is a set. There's something that I've just recently like battled and went through in like an energy session around and healed was the battle of why do I want them to go? It's because I don't want them to live a life they never wanted to live.
Mhm.
So there's this part of me that it's like, let them be free, right? Because I'm all about freedom. Let
Mhm.
them be free to live the way they want to live, and that's not the way they are right now.
Yeah,
And
you
so,
get another do-over. Start again.
right,
Come back.
right, exactly.
We
And
had a
it's funny because the
grandson
human of
born the
us,
night before, and his before he died, and my son Bob, who was his first grandson, his other son was born on his birthday 3 years ago. So this, like, there was so much going on during that month.
mm, yeah, mm, beautiful and hard,
Yeah.
like the duality of life. I could write so many posts about the duality of life.
Yeah.
Uh,
So Jackie, how do people work with you? What do you and what do you help them with specifically, as I wipe all my tears away? It's a
I know,
very
I know.
emotional conversation. I'm sorry. I don't really like this.
That tends to
So
happen
deep.
when two that tends to happen when two very open, authentic, organic, vulnerable women get together where we
Yeah.
we release that in each other, and that's so good. That's such a good thing. And if you're listening, you don't have that, reach out to us because you need people who are willing to go there
Yeah.
and willing to be vulnerable in your life so you could free yourself up to do the same. That would yeah, that would be one of my biggest words of advice. Um, how to work with me. Let's see. So I have programs of like one-on-one coaching. I have a mastermind.
Mhm.
My mastermind's actually just like kicked off this year where we have a support team that helps you in all areas. I do the work, like kind of what Jill and I have been talking about, where we do the inner work and helping you really own who you are and get and get to the place where you can fully like be vulnerable and be authentic and real with, because it took me till I was 47. I'm 51 now, 47, to really understand that I didn't like myself, and I would only go so successful without loving myself from the inside out and moving towards that. But I do that through a process of awakening, empowering, and owning. In this mastermind, I've added other pieces, because financially, like, what's the mindset behind your finances? I have that person who does that, and I have a person in there who does the wellness behind getting back to your circadian rhythm, and then I have someone in there who does technology. So I've put a team of us of 6 to support you in this mastermind, this monthly mastermind. And then I also do retreats, and I just announced one for April 2025 in the Outer Banks, North Carolina area. I did it last April, and it was magnificent. And I'm just watching the shifts in the women that still a year later that are happening, and they're like, because of that, this is happening, and because of that, this is happening. And so I was like, I need to do it again. And so I desire to do it again. So April 2025. And so, yeah, and I do a lot of free stuff, but the best way to get in my world and be impacted and change your life without having to join anything is actually my Facebook page, to be honest. My Facebook page is my digital diary of my thoughts, my life. Like, I will, I'll have moments and everything just pours out of me into that platform. And I'll have moments where it's like I'm drinking a cup of tea and I'm like, whoa, I got to share this, like this epiphany or this aha, the one with my dad, where I was like, wow, I just went live automatically and just started crying on a live and just telling them how much, like, I just healed this childhood wound of never feeling loved and blah, 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 not realizing it. And so my Facebook page alone is a way you can process, grow, and become more vulnerable just by hanging out with me there. So
that is awesome. So what's the one thing you want to leave the audience with today?
I think we've covered so many of them. Even though there's just one thing. One of the biggest ones is we live in a very predictable life, like day to day, doing the shoulds, doing what we've been, maybe programmed to. And there's this inner knowing that, like when you feel it, don't ignore it. And stop putting that purposeful driven freedom life on hold, because it doesn't have to be. And I don't care what age you are. I do not care what age you are. 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. I've worked with all of it. And I am blown away by women in their 70s restarting, writing books, doing podcasts, like all sorts of stuff. And I reinvented myself at 47, 48. It's just never too late to really just go for what you desire, but just stop waiting, because we don't know what tomorrow, right? Yeah. We don't know what tomorrow brings. And so you get to have a fun freedom life now and not wait. So
awesome. Thanks for joining me, Jackie. This has been amazing.
Thank you for having me. You're awesome. I'm so glad we got to do this.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another empowering episode of the You World Order Showcase podcast. We hope you've enjoyed hearing from our incredible life, health, and transformational coaches who are making a profound impact on the world. Remember, change begins with you, and you have the power to transform your life and the lives of others. If you want to take that next step and unlock your true potential, visit thecoachesalchemist.com, where you can find the 3 ways we can help you for free to spin your talent into gold with clarity, a system, and a plan. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an inspiring episode. And if you enjoyed today's show, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach more people with our positive message. Stay connected with us on social media for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and upcoming guest announcements. You can find us on Facebook at the You World Order, or simply visit thecoachesalchemist.com.